Hey, brothers and sisters again. This is crazy. You should see it. It's raining here. It may snow, but I've never seen it like this. Yesterday it was like 70 something degrees, and then it's like El Freezing here. It's crazy. A few minutes ago there was light coming from that mountain over there. I have a still picture of it, but I don't know if I can put it on there. It's hard for me because my phone is this Apple phone. And you know, Apple's all turning left all the time. I got it because my daughter got a buy one, get one, and she got the 12 Pro and Max. And so that's what they were going to give you one. And then we get them, and then they're like, well, no, you got to pay this extra money to get that one. So it ends up costing me $400 after we got the phone. What's you doing? There's my babies. There's my little baby. Got my little baby. Yes, you little baby. And there's Abigail, and it's raining, and they said, we can't go in the rain because they melt. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about real quick, I have to go down to take my wife's car in and have some work done. Come on, Hannah. Want to come in? It's cold. It's too cold. Come on in. Come on in, Hannah. Come on, Hannah. Come on. Come on, Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte, dog. So I want to talk to you guys. I should have told you guys this a while back. It's been like over a week ago, week and a half. I had a dream, right? And I dreamed that they were mandating that everybody get the vaccine. And it was like they were was on the news and stuff, and then they were like going door to door trying to get people to get vaccinated. And then all of a sudden, you know, we got this new Omicron variant. It was before it came out. I told my wife about it. I didn't make a video. I should have, but my wife just looks at me and goes, oh, you're crazy. But here's the thing, you know, or she looks at me and goes, whatever. But anyway, the point is, I had this dream about it, and they were like trying to round people up. So I don't know what's happened. I haven't got the booster shot. I did go in and talk to the pharmacy guy about the shots here in town, and he had a bottle of the Moderna that they'd give somebody an injection with, and he showed it to me. He says, look, it's just a cloudy thing, and then the Pfizer's cleared just like the Johnson & Johnson is, because somebody, you know, this lady, she's an osteopath and claims to be a doctor, said that she had taken some of it, of the Johnson & Johnson and the other ones, and then I don't know if it was the Moderna or the Pfizer, but she had scanned it, looked at it through a microscope, right? And I was like, she says there's metal particles in the Moderna, and he's just like me. You can't see that without a scanning electron microscope, and there are only a few of those. There's not, you can't just go down to Vaughn's and buy one, or the hardware store. You know, they're $1 million for a scanning microscope. And so she didn't use one. And then they investigated her. They investigated her for whether she's telling the truth, and there's no way. And the stuff that she found, like in the other one, she found some kind of, looks like a pond creature in there, which is another fake thing. But then some guy that's an RN contacted me and said, hey, they could do reverse transcription through this RNA. That's what he's saying, right? Not me, YouTube. This guy's an R. So I looked that up, and there's a doctor that talks about it from Children's Hospital, right? It's a major technical hospital. They're not just a hospital that people go get treated for burns, cuts, falls, scrapes, that kind of stuff. But they're a technical school where they have like laboratories and they do stuff, you know, because there are hospitals that do actual research, right? And this is like a research hospital. And the research hospital, they say it can't happen because there's like 3 other components that have to be in there, and then it still can't do what these people are saying. And the pharmacist was telling me, he's like, hey, you know, because I was telling him, you know, I'm a Christian and I got the Johnson & Johnson and everything, and people are attacking me because they say there's these nanoparticles in there. of metal, which there are nanoparticles. Just like in your toothpaste, there's nanoparticles in there right now. So every morning when you brush your teeth, you put nanoparticles on your teeth. There are lipids, little lipids of oil. I researched all this stuff. And, you know, when you go to the, like I said, there's a crazy channel where all the crazies can go put their videos on and nobody questions them. You know, they're talking about zombies and they're talking about aliens and they're talking about all kinds of outrageous stuff, you know, that you got to wear an aluminum foil hat that you made to protect yourself from all this stuff. But anyway, so reverse transcription can't happen from what I understand according to science. Now, somebody will say, oh, brother, it can because there's got to be. Because, see, there's people that want to stir something up or they believe something. You know, it's like these people that believe the earth is flat. And then you're going to have Mike Strahan this morning. He's going to, from the news, he's going to go up in a spaceship that's going to go up 65 miles up. And they're going to look out there. And you can see the curvature of the earth with your eyeball. And then they have a thing called the International Space Station. And the International Space Station is orbiting the earth. And it orbits about every 20 minutes or more. It goes around the earth because it's traveling at 19,000 miles an hour because the earth is a round surface and it's continually falling off the edge. It's not actually in true space. There's still a little bit of atmosphere up there, and that's why it will slow down and eventually re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and unless they keep boosting it up and they keep pushing it up with fuel. They have rocket engines on it, and they push it up, or they use those ships when they come up and dock with it. They'll move up and nudge it up a little bit. And all satellites will do that unless they're in geosynchronous orbit, which is 33,000 miles up. And then you have other satellites in different orbits. And over time, say 300, 400 years from now, most of those satellites will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and burn up. And so these people believe that the Earth is flat. Even though there's tons of scientific evidence, you can go out and check it out yourself. Like you can measure the curvature of the Earth, but we're using a stick. That's how they first did it. They used a ruler, and they went out and they measured every so many miles as they walked, and then they look at the sun and they can figure these degrees through mathematics, and they figured the exact circumference of the Earth back then. So you got all these pseudoscientists. It's like these guys that talk about perpetual motion or these cars that run on water, right? That was the big thing back in the 90s and the late 80s. This car that would run on water. And then when you find out it doesn't really run on water. That's all a bunch of mumbo jumbo and over unity and all this other stuff that a lot of people talk about, trying to make perpetual motion or something, and there's nothing that's ever been proven. It doesn't happen. You know, it's the same thing with fusion. They're talking about fusion being that's the next thing above nuclear. Well, to make the heat, the magnetic containment high enough, it melts. This is so hot, it's in the millions of degrees, like 2 million or 3 million degrees or 100 million degrees, and it melts the interior of the machine because it's hotter than the surface of the sun. I think the surface of the sun is only like 15 million. So, you can look it up on Google, it'll tell you. They have the Parker Solar Probe right out there in the sun is hotter away from it than it is on the surface. It's in the millions of degrees when you're out there so many miles away from it. And they've wondered why that happens, because when you have a match and you light a match, the further away from the match you are, the cooler it gets. But the sun is different. And it has something to do with the magnetic constriction, right? There's magnetic fields, and it's allowing that heat that's coming off the sun to circulate and run into each other over and over again like one of these fusion reactors. But the sun has enough gravitational potential, or whatever it is. It may be Abish. It may be the magnetic fields that are created by the sun. It has a huge magnetic field around it, and it's constraining those particles and causing them to heat up. It's all designed by God. His mind thought all this up. He thought up atoms and the particles that atoms are made out of, and how they exist and how they hold together. Our God thought that all up. He's He's very, very intelligent. He just didn't want, oh, let's make some light. It has physics behind it that you can actually discover how the sun works, how the earth works, how plants work and animals work. See, all that stuff is made possible through mathematics, and God he's the one that invented all that. So anyway, they believe the earth is flat, even though this thing, you can get a guide and it'll tell you when it passes over your location or near you. And then there's guys that have waited for it, and then they took a picture of it as it passes in front of the moon, the International Space Station. And they've taken pictures of it with high-powered telescopes or with lenses on cameras, and they can film it. They're tracking it as it goes by, right? And it goes over to the horizon and it's gone. And exactly so many minutes later, it reappears and comes by that almost same track. So the Chinese have been in space. The Japanese have been in space. Israelis have went into space, and they even crashed a probe on the moon. They tried to land, but they crashed. So what we'd have to believe if they're trying to tell us the earth is flat is that there's a worldwide conspiracy by all nations to say that the earth is not flat, that it's round. You see how crazy that sounds? And then you got people like Elon Musk he spent billions of dollars to make Starlink and put these satellites up there. And how is that possible if it's that way and you can go on any place and these satellites are in space and you can look up and see them with a telescope? If you do a time-lapse photography with it, you can see those. He's trying to turn the solar collectors that he has on these satellites so that they don't reflect any light, but you can see them. They photographed them in some of these time exposures. And scientists, astronomers were concerned about that because it's blocking their ability to, it's always a little dog, blocking their ability to look at things in the, up in space they want to see. So, worlds without end, it says in there. Worlds without end. Worlds. The S on there portends that there's more than one world out there. Worlds without end. So, this little dog is just an aggravator. So anyway, there's plenty of proof, but yet people still don't believe it. And so the problem is, what I'm looking at, what I want to talk about is the Lord had shown me this, and there's scientists that actually, not everybody is against everything, and there's not a worldwide conspiracy containing every single scientific mind out there. And so I'd ask him about this, and I was talking to him. He says, oh, yeah, my wife's sister, she thinks there's these metal particles in there. So they gave his wife the shot, and then underneath her sleeve, they put a piece of metal, and then he was filming it saying, look, you're right. There is metal particles. Look, the magnet sticks to her. And then they told her, and she's like, oh, I told you so. There is metal. It's proven, and then he told her, no, I was just messing with you, because there's no metal particles. I got the shot. I put a magnet on me. It doesn't stick to my arm. And I got the shot in my left arm. The mark of the beast is supposed to be in your right hand or your forehead, not in your arm. Right hand, it says in the scripture, and it means actual hand when you look it up. It doesn't mean part of your body on the right side. When it says your forehead, it means your forehead. And the mark means an actual, like a tattoo, a burn mark, a permanent thing showing ownership of this person. Because when the Antichrist requires everybody to get it, he's going to tell, and that's in the middle of the tribulation, he's going to say, okay, you got to worship me, and you got to come in and get this thing saying that you worship me, and then you must worship me after you get it. After you get the mark, you must fall down and worship me as God. Okay, and that's when the Israelites are going to go, hey, when he goes in the temple and declares himself to be God and all this stuff is going on, that's whenever they realize he's not the Messiah. Because in the beginning, the Jews are going to believe he is the Messiah. Because what I believe is there's going to be a worldwide war, right? And once the war is over, the world will be divided up into 10 nation states. The Antichrist will rule the world from Jerusalem, not from the United States or Europe. It says he rules from there, and he divides everything up. I believe America will be destroyed. That's what God showed me numerous times. And I've been fasting I fasted 3 days, and I was praying, and I had a dream last night, and I dreamed I saw hundreds and hundreds of missiles being launched. And they weren't little ones. They were the ones like, coming out of a ICBM coming out of the ground. I saw just look like hundreds of them coming out of the ground being launched. And, the debris that comes off of them as they're launched, I could see down in the launch tubes, and then I saw them come out of the ground, and then they flew to wherever they were going. I don't know. I just kept seeing like over and over again. And if you look at the real news, like right now, if you go and look at the European news where they're actually telling you about Russia and China, China's doing all these overflights over Taiwan. And then we're sending them weapons, and Biden's in his weak way. Hey, if you guys have ever, if you watch the Guardians of the Galaxy and those kind of things, they have Doctor Strange, right? And it's about a guy that is a neurosurgeon, and he gets his hands all smashed up in a car accident because he's a guy that just loves himself. He's got all the most expensive watches, and he does all this stuff. But anyway, he goes to this place where they have like these guys, and they do stuff like they're protecting the world from evil coming in. And really, it's symbolic of the devil trying to destroy the universe. But they claim to be some kind of like using some kind of otherworldly magic or whatever. But that's not the important part. The important part is when the bad guy that's trying to destroy everything, Dr. Strange throws this cage on him, right? And he's going, and it sounds just like Biden when he's on the news talking, and you can't understand what he's saying. But anyway, I don't know, I just thought it was fun. When I saw him speak the other day, I don't know, like 5 days ago, when he was on the news, it sounded just like that guy when that cage got thrown on him. And he's like, Dr. Strange says, what? So anyway, it's funny to me. Some people would ding me for watching that movie, but anyway. So, and then they'll watch something else tonight on TV themselves. But anyway, the thing is, I saw all these missiles, right? And if you look, Russia has just moved missile defense system over in the Pacific area, their Pacific area that's in our Pacific Ocean area. They have moved a missile defense system over there. And that's strictly to shoot down, shoot ships and planes down. And then they've reactivated all these things that they're doing, and they have these new submarines that Minister Paul and Pastor Patrick and we all heard about, I don't know, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we heard the word Event Horizon, right? Well, this submarine that they have, because Obama, our president at the time, he told the Russians, hey, we can detect all your submarines, your nuclear submarines that are out there because of the neutrino particles. See, when the nuclear reactor is running, it's got a drive shaft that comes out of those steam engines that it's driving that with, or electric engines are driving it with. Excuse me, steam. Driving the electric engines. Because it's running a nuclear reactor which converts either steam or some other thing into RPM, which turns a generator, and the generator turns these shafts. Well, they could see the neutrino particles from the nuclear pile coming out the back, following that shaft and going out into the ocean. And they could see that with our satellites. And he says, we know where all your ships are, your subs. And their subs are what is their part of their nuclear triad. There's a thing called the nuclear triad. Stop it, Charlotte. And the nuclear triad is ground-based missiles, air-based missiles, and then submarine-based ones. And there may be a component, like the Russians have these things on rails and stuff too. But anyway, Charlotte, stop it! Come on, let's go. Go outside in the cold. So anyway, that's one of the arms of their triad. The submarines are the most important part because a submarine is very hard to know where it is. So like if you're going to do a first strike attack against Russia, you'd have to knock out their subs, because those subs, as soon as we attack them or they detect a nuclear detonation, those subs will target our cities and launch all those missiles, and that'd be the end of America, right? And so anyway, When he told Putin that, Putin and those guys began really moving to develop these diesel electric submarines, which are on they're air assisted, but they make their own air. So this diesel can run for weeks underwater, and they have one of them, and that's its name, the black hole. NATO designated it as the black hole, which the black hole is an event horizon. Okay, and that submarine during the war when Donald Trump was president, I believe, is when this happened. That submarine came out of the base, and they were following. NATO was following it. They had like 100 ships trying to track this submarine. It went on the surface for 2 weeks, submerged, and vanished. They didn't know where it was for almost a month, and then it surfaced and fired 2 caliber cruise missiles back into Syria and hit a bunker and killed all these ISIS terrorists. You could not detect it. There was another one that set off the coast of the United States near Texas for weeks, and then there was a third one that set off of our naval base on the East Coast for weeks, and they couldn't find them. They didn't know where they were until they surfaced, and then they could see them. So the point is, what I'm trying to say is, we have a very weak president. He can't even hardly walk out of the helicopter when it delivers him. If you watch him walking like an 80-year-old man, and then he talks to Putin and he talks all this crazy stuff, right? And so, we're at a very weak point, and maybe our enemies, who have been enemies forever, Russia and China, because we've been dominating the world, maybe they decide, hey, it's a perfect time to strike America, to do something, do heavy damage. Maybe they EMP us, and then they do limited tactical nuclear strike on our cities. We respond, and then the Antichrist takes over. That's what I saw. I saw that EMP happens, the rapture occurs, and then the bombs fall over. And my grandson saw it when he was 4 years old, and he doesn't know anything about bombs falling or nuclear weapons. He's a 4-year-old. And so I really believe that that's how it goes down. The EMP, power goes out, they strike us, limited, we return fire. Then the world's in chaos for a while. The Antichrist comes out of that. He puts the world back together and brings peace. It's like the Bible says. He has Jewish ties to the tribe of Dan. And he's also, he could be involved in NATO, I don't know. The Lord had shown me a while back that Barack Obama was the Antichrist, or a type of Antichrist, in a dream. And I really wasn't interested in that stuff, because all I cared about was the rapture and when it was going to happen and how close we were. Once you have a rapture dream where you're really involved and God really shows you and talks to you, that's your main focus for some reason. It changes you. It's like when before Saul was king, Samuel told him that a spirit was going to come over him, and he was going to be a new man. He was going to be different. And he was going to even prophesy and all this stuff. And then that's what happened to him. Go read that. And so anyway, what I wanted to say is, I don't know what's going on with this vaccine business and the Omicron and the next one that's going to come out and the next one. Whatever. If they're talking about trying to giving people boosters every single year or whatever, this is insane. And maybe this is how the Antichrist changes people. I know Pastor Patrick had talked about people becoming a Gaborum or something like that, but I don't know. Because we all hear things and sometimes they don't come to pass, because the Bible tells us that we see and prophesy in part. We don't know exactly. Now, sometimes God can tell you, like he's told me in the past about things, and they were absolutely 100% true. And then sometimes he's told me things, and then they happen kind of like what he said, or what I interpreted what he said. See, and that's the thing, how do we interpret what God says, But the thing is, you can have joy in your heart, because we know that we are living in the last days. These are the last times, the last moments.